Hi, welcome to part 2 and 3 of Unit 6's module lectures. So this lecture is really a review of the essentials of integrating differentiated instruction within reading classes and English classroom settings, which includes ELA. We have 2 readings for this week, and they include this one, differentiated reading instruction, which is particularly for elementary settings, and then differentiated instruction in the English classroom, content process, and product assessment. This week you have a lot more videos as well, so those will help to show some of the things that were discussed in the reading. So I thought this was kind of interesting with the one discussing, we're just going to jump into it because I don't want to have a really long lecture, and I also want to give you time to actually be doing your work. I know that some of you like the lectures, some of you don't, but this is like a really fast speed through, so make sure you do the reading for this week. But the first one, differentiated reading instruction, gives a really good summary of research, suggestions, and methods for incorporating differentiation into the classroom. And these are the areas that they suggest, which includes assessment, grouping formats, classroom management materials, length and frequency of instruction, and lesson focus, which is something that we all are pretty familiar with to a certain extent. I like this quote, and this is actually a quote for discussion, where they challenge us to consider what really differentiating and reading would look like. So it says, the recurrent message from research is that it is the teacher, not the programs or materials, that makes a difference. Therefore, only a well-prepared teacher can effectively differentiate reading instruction for students. And the example of the reading, Ms. Martin exemplifies such a teacher. She is aware that a one-size-fits-all model of teaching will not meet the needs of her diverse learners. She possesses a deep understanding of the reading process and the needs of the students in her classroom. And I think that is so true. You can have all the circles, student centers, and all this different stuff that you want. But if you don't understand that your students don't think and learn the same way, it's going to be a problem for you to effectively integrate differentiated instruction, especially in reading and English or ELA classrooms, because there's so many gaps in so many different areas that you have to tackle. So you have to be prepared to kind of open your mind to what that might look like for your classroom. So in the differentiated instruction in the English classroom, the second reading, which I'm going to tell you, super still for me because it has so many useful resources that I will be copying out, actually no, recreating, designing to make my own. Like I do a knowledge rating scale, which kind of sees what the students have to do. I have a lot of work to do today. Obviously, I'll be up for a very, very long time. Hopefully I'll get some sleep on Sunday before school starts. But yeah, it has some awesome things for you to use if you are an English teacher. But this reading was fairly short. The main thing you needed to look at was, prior to differentiating within English classrooms, it is important to consider the previous knowledge, background, personal history, and social experiences students come into the classroom with. Remember, middle school, all the way from 6 through 12, there are a lot of hormonal changes, more in middle school, and you have to be aware of those things because students have so many traumas and so many triggers that they come into the classroom with. And those triggers and traumas may have nothing to do with you and everything to do with everything else. So you don't want to trigger a trauma that then deflates your whole plans and kind of ruins the whole thing that you were trying to do. In other words, be aware. So work on relationship building while you're learning how to differentiate properly, which is something I do for the first 2 weeks of the semester. So I teach the students how to do the things that I want them to do while observing what type of interactions they will or won't have, and then taking that from there and then making the actual things that they will be doing with the content or the books. So be sure to begin any unit that you plan to differentiate with getting to know students, their readiness, getting to know students' learning styles, and I added in social learning preferences because those do play a role. Not that they will always get what they want, but it's important that you consider those things. Differentiated instruction in the English classroom. Please take a look at the pages 52 through 56 that talk about classroom management. You cannot do differentiated instruction without actually being able to manage your classroom. I don't believe in management. I believe in negotiations. So my students have a major part in how my classroom is managed. However, I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that it doesn't always work. But I do make sure that I'm clear and consistent in the firmness and the expectations that I have for each and every student. So if I do have to manage behavior within a classroom, then it does take place within those preset conditions that we are non-negotiables that are set for the school. So remember that adding a practice week for learning desired approaches to learning. I know that's a double word, but they don't always know what you're asking them to do. So that's why sometimes your differentiated instruction fails and has failed for me. Communicating through visual reminders. I always like to print out what is being expected and do a video of what they should be doing in order to make sure they know exactly what's going on. And then prior to using the student-centered approach, anyone you use for differentiating, which is common within English settings, especially with a large amount of people that are in your classroom, be sure to put in place a monitoring system for both you and the student to encourage self-regulation and accountability. So each student should have their own responsibilities and their roles within whatever you choose to differentiate, and they should know that there is something that's due at the end of the classroom or the class period. So there are multiple videos. I wanted to focus on ESL. I also wanted to focus on reading differentiation. I'm actually going to switch those two. And then I also wanted to focus on differentiating through grouping in an English high school classroom. I thought her logic for grouping students was really important for you to see. And then differentiating instruction through writer's workshop, which is a heavy intensive thing that you're going to be doing in an English classroom setting anyway, or in any other classroom. So I thought this could be useful. That wraps up everything for this week. Like I said to you, I did not want to have an extensively long lecture. And I also wanted to make sure that you got the meat of what you needed to know, but please go back and read every single thing and enjoy the videos that I have prepared for you. If you have any questions as you are creating your final projects, please let me know. The one thing you need to be aware of is that you need to use the feedback from the midterm project. And then number two, you need to also make sure that whatever you create is new, because you will have to teach it. So it should not be something that you recycle from last time that we had a class. It should be something new that you're using for the first time, that you're teaching for the first time, excuse me. And the teaching experiences that you have should be communicated from the first couple of weeks. Please let me know if you have any questions again, and I hope you have a fantastic first day.